Good evening. He was Ontario's self-styled crypto king, at least until accusations he was at the heart of a $40 million Ponzi scheme prompted his bankruptcy.
Now CTV News has learned of a significant development in the case of Aiden Pleterski. As CTV's John Woodward reports, he's been arrested and charged with fraud.
The only drug I'm addicted to is making money.
And Aiden Pleterski did make money for a while. The self-proclaimed crypto king showed off a flashy lifestyle, luxury travel, and rented a mansion for $40,000 a month. As Pleterski, a young man in his 20s from the Toronto suburb of Whitby, convinced hundreds of investors to hand over tens of millions. But in 2022, the courts declared him and his company AP Private Equity bankrupt. Over 100 people have filed claims, but much of that money hasn't been found. Some investors apparently taking matters into their own hands, several charged with kidnapping and torturing Pleterski and recording him giving what he has said is a coerced statement.
I should have been honest with everybody when I told them I had lost a lot of money.
Now this case is turning criminal. CTV News has obtained court documents that show that Aiden Pleterski is being charged with one count of fraud over $5,000 and one count of laundering money. The charges were sworn in early May. Pleterski arrested and released on bail Tuesday with $100,000 surety from his parents. We visited his Whitby home Wednesday afternoon. No answer. His criminal lawyer declined to comment. Durham police also say that a man accused of running a feeder account, Colin Murphy, was also charged with fraud over $5,000. CTV's W5 caught up with him outside a civil hearing last year. Always a self-promoter, Pleterski built his own brand and mythology as a high-powered investor.
This is just the tip of the iceberg of the story, I'm telling you guys. This is literally just the tip of the iceberg.
Though the criminal charges may bring him back to reality. John Woodward, CTV News.
The province is promising new penalties for people convicted of impaired driving.
The move is aimed at keeping them from getting back behind the wheel. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live tonight with the details. Siobhan.
Well, the numbers are startling. 1 in 3 people killed on Ontario roads are killed by an impaired driver. Those aren't just statistics. Those are mothers, brothers, friends, co-workers. They're people the Transportation Minister is hoping to keep alive with the changes announced today. It's the kind of pain, of loss, playing out far too often on Ontario roads.
Too many lives have been turned upside down by the reckless and selfish actions of someone else.
Lives cut short by a driver who was impaired.
We're past the time for making excuses.
The Transportation Minister unveiling new rules aimed at preventing bad decisions and heartbreak,
including a lifetime license suspension for those convicted of impaired driving causing death.
Tells me to blow.
Anyone convicted of impaired driving even once will be forced
to install an ignition interlock device in their vehicle.
The plan includes an education campaign to address the rising concern of impairment by cannabis. There's also a proposal for longer suspensions for drivers who fail alcohol and drug screenings at the roadside. Right now, the first time you fail, you lose your license for 3 days. That could jump to a week. The penalty for a second failed test could double from 1 week to 2.
People react to things being done immediately because most people don't, unfortunately, don't think.
But police say a sober second thought is sorely needed.
We've already had 10 people lose their lives this year alone in impaired or alcohol or drug-related crashes, and many more people hurt.
Drivers are seeing it too, and they applaud these changes.
There are so many accidents involved with the impaired driving, so it is a good idea.
I work on the highways and I work on the municipal roads, and I see that people are just a slap on the wrist, basically.
It will take a while for legislation to pass, for changes to take effect. But in the hearts of those who've lost loved ones to impaired drivers, hope.
I would just love to not be doing this anymore because there are no more victims.
Legislation is coming tomorrow that will include changes, tougher penalties for impaired drivers and violent auto thieves. The Transportation Minister says it will also include some changes we haven't seen yet. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Still to come tonight, a large-scale power outage in part of the core for much of the day. Find out why officials believe a common downtown pesky creature was responsible.
A first First look at the forecast, though. Some cloud cover this hour, although you can see sunshine peeking through, and there is the potential for showers this evening. If you spend any time outside today, you likely notice the humidity in the air, and there's more of that to come. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. What do you see in Jess?
The humidex value becomes an issue this time of year, and it only increases as we head in towards the actual start of summer in June. We're staying relatively dry this evening, although with all this heat and humidity, the chance for showers does linger, but the bulk of the system is sitting far south of us. Temperature-wise, we're still in the upper teens, low 20s as we get into the early part of our evening, and if you're heading out tonight for a walk, you want to get your steps in, maybe your kids are playing sports, maybe you're playing sports, extra water a good idea because it remains really warm. A little more sunshine out towards Pearson, but regardless, through the islands, through Pearson, between 18 and about 20 degrees, so it is warm. Coming up, a full look at your long-range forecast, including temperatures on the rise into the day tomorrow, and a look ahead at your long weekend. But right now, back over to Michelle.
Thank you, Jessica. One of the best spots in the city to head when the weather is nice is the waterfront. Coming up on CTV News at 6, why one group says it could be much nicer, what they'd like to see the city do about it.
There's been another shooting involving a tow truck. Police say it happened late this afternoon in Scarborough near Markham and Steeles. And that's where we find CTV's Mike Walker with the very latest. Mike.
Well, Nathan, as you can see, police have taped off a large section of the plaza parking lot here. This brazen shooting happened just after 3:30 this afternoon, according to Toronto police. A dark-colored vehicle, someone in a dark-colored vehicle fired shots at two tow trucks. There are 9 evidence markers placed near shell casings. Now, Toronto police say there were no injuries reported, that the suspect then fled the scene, and it appears that the 2 tow trucks also left the scene. We're told that police located the suspect vehicle just south of here near Markham and Finch, but they said the suspects have since taken off and they are continuing to look for them. This is a developing and fluid situation here. Forensic investigators had just arrived on scene a short time ago. They're continuing to collect evidence. I spoke with one person who works at a nearby business. They told me they heard multiple gunshots. Again, there's no reported injuries. Police continuing to look for the suspects, but at this point they don't have a suspect description. And this is just the latest incident involving a string of violent incidents with tow trucks. Police are continuing to investigate 3 others that occurred since Saturday. At this point, investigators haven't said if there's any connection. Reporting live with Mike Walker, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. A man was injured in an overnight shooting in East York. It happened around 3 this morning near Cosburn and Cedarvale Avenue, east of Woodbine. Police say the man was found suffering from life-threatening injuries and was rushed to hospital. Paramedics say the victim's injuries are now considered non-life-threatening. There's no word on suspects at this point.
Now, one person's in hospital after a stabbing in Brampton last night. It was just after 7:30 when police, paramedics, and firefighters responded to handle court in the Bramley Road and Williams Parkway area. Peel paramedics say one person was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries, but there's no word on how the person was injured. Peel police are investigating, but haven't said if they're looking for any suspects.
A major power outage disrupted life downtown today. This outage began just before 10:30 and affected some 6,500 Toronto Hydro customers from around Carlton Street down to the Water and Yonge Street to the DVP. Traffic signals throughout the area were down. The issue was caused by an explosion in a transformer at King and John Street. And that explosion, according to Hydro officials, was caused by a wayward squirrel. Toronto Hydro managed to restore power to the area mid-afternoon.
A small protest at the headquarters of the Toronto District School Board this afternoon. CTV's Janice Golding is there live with the details. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, more than a dozen students and parents gathered at a meeting here today to call out what they describe as racism at the TDSB.
The silence makes our children feel like it's a battle for them to say that they're Palestinian.
The delegates at today's Policy and Planning Committee meeting say the board's curriculum does not include teachings on Palestinian history and culture. They also say their children have been intimidated for wearing the keffiyeh and that pro-Palestinian student articles have not been published. Organizers say they want the board to support student learning about Palestine, to sever relations with Israeli lobby groups and to acknowledge any harm done to Palestinian students by discouraging or discounting their voices. Their move coincides with Nakba Day, otherwise known as the catastrophe, when more than 700,000 Palestinians were expelled or fled in the war surrounding Israel's creation.
Despite the board's purported dedication to addressing all forms of discrimination, including systemic injustices, Palestinians and Arabs within the TDSB community have felt excluded and discriminated against.
As a Jewish person, deeply believe in Palestinian rights, Palestinian sovereignty. I believe that anti-Semitism and anti-Palestinian racism are bound up in each other. I don't believe it should be polarized.
In cases of oppression, silence is complicity. The board not providing communication against racism that is happening in their schools is providing tacit approval to that racism.
Now, CTV News has reached out to the school board for a comment, but as yet we have not heard back. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Michelle.
Thanks, Janice. It's a popular destination for residents and tourists, but a new report says the city could do more to take advantage of the number of people who visit Toronto's waterfront.
The Waterfront BIA has some ideas on changes the city could make to better use the area. CTV Sean Leithong is live tonight at the waterfront with more. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, the waterfront is good when the weather is good, and they say there's lots of places for people to live. There's just not enough places or things for people to do.
A beautiful day along the waterfront in Toronto has attracted a lot of visitors, but a new report from the Waterfront Business Improvement Area says the city may not be making the most of that foot traffic.
The most obvious thing we kind of see is that there's not enough excuses for people to be right beside the water, get out on the water, sit on a patio right near the water.
Tim Coker is the executive director of the Waterfront BIA. Their waterfront retail review covers 3 sections along the shoreline from Cherry Street in the east all the way to Stadium Road in the west. Coker points out that there are currently only 6 patios for the thousands of people who come here to enjoy a meal or a drink.
There's another challenge we have here in Toronto. It's called winter, and it's very difficult to build a restaurant out that has a huge patio space that you can't use for a significant portion of the year.
The BIA says the waterfront's about 25 years into a 50-year revitalization, with more than 100,000 residents expected to move here as the area develops. But this report points to some adjustments that are needed in the immediate, like small restaurants that actually close on evenings and weekends. Some we spoke to say the waterfront has yet to create an identity.
When people ask what particular things that you would come see here, it's like I couldn't say one thing in particular.
There were very few restaurants around, but for us that wasn't an issue.
And there's always lots of movement, lots of people walking around already, but definitely take a little bit of the people off the street and then bring them in. I think there's lots of opportunity because it's always so busy down here.
There are large-scale changes coming to the Portlands that will see development take off in the coming years.
It's coming along, but it can't be built immediately.
Today, Mayor Olivia Chow said you don't need special events to enjoy the waterfront right now.
Just being able to walk along the waterfront and watch sunset, it's just as pleasurable.
The BIA also says there are other ways that we can get people down to the waterfront. One of the things they suggested is to have more bike parking. There's lots of car parking right now, but they say it could be nice to have people have a spot to leave their bike and then enjoy the walking trails they have around here. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leithong. I'll send it back inside.
All right. Thank you, Sean. In Alberta and BC, there are hundreds of active wildfires right now, including dozens that are out of control.
One of those active blazes is an 84 square kilometer fire threatening the town of Fort Nelson. CTV's Andrew Johnson has more.
There has been a lot of conflicting information coming out of Fort Nelson via social media from people who refuse to leave. And evacuees have a lot of questions. Well, now we know for sure there have been some losses. In new video emerging today from the Fort Nelson fire zone, shot by someone who defied the evacuation order to leave, we can see where fire carved a path along the highway outside of town. And now the region's mayor is confirming what's been most feared by many. More than one home has been damaged or lost.
This is a very sensitive topic. I mean, I can confirm that there has been some structural damage in the outlying areas of Fort Nelson. There's been no structural damage at all within the town proper. But out along the stretches of the Alaska Highway, in close proximity to where this started, there has been some damage.
Fraser says officials are still trying to get a better idea of what's been lost, and affected homeowners have not yet been notified. The massive Parker Lake fire burning west of Fort Nelson is approximately 84 square kilometers in size, burning just a couple of kilometers west of town. Close to 5,000 people were forced to evacuate Friday. 2,000 of them are staying here in Fort St. John, and we're told many are wondering about whether enough was done to safeguard the town before the fire sparked.
Doing like the little controlled pre-burns kind of thing, burn up the brush and stuff like that, get it out of the way so that if something did happen, they don't have something to feed the fire with, right?
Evacuees tell us they are very anxious to learn more about that potential damage to homes in the outlying areas around Fort Nelson, and they also remain grateful for all of the support from neighboring communities as they wait in limbo for any word on when they might be able to return home. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Fort St. John.
Slovakia's prime minister is reportedly not in a life-threatening situation at the moment following surgery. Robert Fico was shot while greeting supporters at an event outside a cultural center in the town of Handlova. A suspect's in custody, and the government says an initial investigation indicates the shooting was politically motivated. Leaders across Europe were quick to condemn the attempted assassination. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he is disturbed by the attack, and his thoughts are with Fico and the people of Slovakia.
In the Middle East, the fighting has intensified in parts of the Gaza Strip. Israeli troops fought militants across the territory today, including in Rafah, which has been a refuge for displaced civilians. Israel has pressed into the eastern part of the city in recent days in pursuit of what it says are 4 Hamas battalions. In the north, Israel said it killed dozens of terrorists in the Zaytun area. Residents said tanks had pulled back, with dozens of homes destroyed or damaged. Palestinian medics report dozens of civilians have been killed and wounded.
Palestinians across the Middle East mark the anniversary of their mass expulsion from what is now Israel. Protests and other events were held across the region on what Palestinians refer to as the Nakba, which is Arabic for catastrophe. About 700,000 people fled or were driven from their homes before and during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War that followed Israel's establishment. More than twice that number have been displaced within Gaza since the start of the current war.
In Montreal, a request for an injunction to dismantle a pro-Palestinian encampment at McGill University has been refused.
We hope that this court's decision teaches McGill that exercising exceptional measures to repress its own students through legal means instead of meeting their demands is more costly.
A Quebec Superior Court judge ruled today the school did not prove the situation at the encampment was sufficiently urgent to justify the measure. The university argued the encampment presents a health and safety risk and prevents McGill from holding convocation ceremonies on its property. But the judge said the school cannot report any serious or violent incident since the first tents were set up.
Ukrainian forces have withdrawn from some parts of the northeast and are battling Russian troops in other areas of the country. 21 people were injured in a barrage that hit the city of Kharkiv as the enemy presses a new offensive in the region. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has postponed all his upcoming foreign trips, underscoring the seriousness of the situation in his country. Today, the U.S. announced a $2 billion arms deal for Ukraine. Most of the money is from a package approved last month.
It may be the only thing they agree on between now and the U.S. presidential election in November.
Joe Biden and Donald Trump have agreed to square off in 2 campaign debates, and they'll take place before either has formally accepted their party's nomination. CTV's Joy Malbin reports.
Well, make my day, pal.
President Joe Biden, sounding a bit like Dirty Harry, laid out his terms for taking on former President Donald Trump.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
A not-so-subtle shot at Trump, who's stuck in a courtroom facing 34 criminal charges for falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments to an adult film star.
I'm calling on Crooked Joe to debate.
Trump has challenged Biden to debate anywhere, anytime, posting this on social media. Just tell me when. I'll be there. Let's get ready to rumble.
How you doing, man?
The rematch comes as a New York Times poll shows Biden is in trouble with voters, angry over Gaza, immigration on the southern border, and inflation. Everything costs too much. The two have been taunting one another.
This crooked Joe Biden doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Joe is weak. He's only good at cheating on elections.
I'll never forget him lying about the pandemic, telling Americans to inject bleach into their skin. I wonder if he did it.
Both campaigns have agreed no live audience or third-party candidates like Robert Kennedy Jr.
For Joe Biden, not debating could be risky. Both candidates for president want to reach voters earlier. The showdown is set for June 27th and September 10th. Joy Melvin, CTV News, Washington.
Coming up, hours lost in precious time and productivity. Drivers already fed up, fearing they can't handle 3 years of Gardner construction. In the final installment of our three-part series, we examine if anything at all can be done to curb the congestion.
We've been seeing fairly seasonal temperatures, but that's before you factor in any kind of humidex. As we head over the next few days, it is going to be hot and very humid. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast and what you can expect as we head into the end of the week and step into the long weekend. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Over the last 2 nights, we've examined the fallout from construction on the Gardner.
There's undeniable cost to the congestion on both drivers and businesses. But with 3 lanes of shutdowns for 3 years, it's only just begun.
In the final report of our series on Gardner gridlock, CTV's Natalie Johnson asked what more can be done to alleviate the impact.
It's 6:20 p.m. on a Thursday, and Fez Barbuya is leaving his Canary District job to head home to Burlington. A commute that's gone from bad to worse since the Gardner went down to 2 lanes in each direction between Dufferin and Strawn. A 30% cut to capacity for rehabilitation work.
It used to take me about an hour and 15 minutes to get home. Right now that has up to 1 hour 45 or 2 hours.
2 hours times 2 times a day spent sitting in traffic, even though Barbuya has extended his hours at the office, working unpaid overtime to avoid the peak of rush hour.
I am the one having to make all the adjustments. I am the one having to pay for additional fuel. I am the one having to spend more time on the road.
Trying to get on the Gardner from the closest on-ramp can be a nightmare, and he finds it faster to first go north to get onto the DVP before turning back south to access the Gardner from the Parkway. It takes 18 minutes to get onto the expressway, where he soon slows to a crawl. The stop and start all the way west, backed up by the bottleneck even before he hits Yonge Street.
What is frustrating for me is in the morning when I'm coming in and the lanes that are shut down, nobody's working there. Same thing in the evening. Thousands of people were together in this, and I look over and not a soul working on these sections.
I think they should have looked at extended hours of construction. I think that's critical. I mean, we've seen it in other cities. As I say, this is a 3-year project. I think I've heard some people say it's going to take 3 years to do a 1-year project.
The city says the primary construction hours on this project are 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday to Saturday, with occasional work on Sundays and overnight. Staff say noise complaints during the construction of the previous section between Jarvis and Sherry was a factor in the decision.
When pressed about how often overnight work takes place, the city said currently the contractor undertakes overnight work as and when needed, including tasks that are quieter or depend on specific conditions.
Too often it's equipment sitting on the side of the road with a bunch of pylons around it.
Toronto Councillor Brad Bradford calling on the city to speed up the schedule.
We need to push harder on the 24/7 construction. I want that construction equipment working around the clock to make sure that we can get this done as quickly as possible. It doesn't need to be a 3-year project. It needs to be done faster.
There are strategies to accelerate construction.
The director of U of T's Infrastructure Institute says the challenge with expediting the work is that it doesn't come cheap.
You can go 24 hours a day. You can do off-site construction for certain types of projects. That's been used in other jurisdictions. But there's also a trade-off between time and cost. And the city's also facing a huge budgetary challenge. So how they go about doing things to try to speed these projects up that have costs, then we're always weighing that.
Contractor crews tell CTV News that more nearby real estate would be needed to house any prefabricated pieces. Timing the work around the 2026 FIFA World Cup, when all lanes will be temporarily reopened, complicates the construction schedule.
We are bringing in experts to look at ways on how we could rebuild it faster. We are hoping to speed up the construction as much as we can.
Toronto's mayor stresses that even when it looks like the lanes are sitting empty, work is often being done out of view underneath the expressway.
I know the disruption that it has caused as I travel on it every single day, so we are committed to doing anything and everything to help support the increased timelines on getting that completed.
One thing the city could do is that they could time the lights differently, because sometimes waiting at a red light, there's no traffic going in the opposite direction.
The city says it has retimed 60 traffic signals in the area and is also considering deploying more traffic agents in strategic spots.
Certainly from my perspective, we're doing everything we can from a traffic management perspective to keep traffic moving as fluidly as we could.
Many drivers, though, argue this feels far from fluid.
It's like a biggest disaster. 3 years is a long time.
As for Fez Barbuya, even leaving downtown after the height of rush hour put him home at nearly 8 p.m., only to get up extra early again the next morning to do it all again with everybody else.
It's 200,000 lives on a daily basis, and that's just the direct people that we're talking about. What about the impact on their families? I'm just simply absolutely exhausted from the drive.
Not grinning and barely bearing the Gardner gridlock on an expressway that is anything but. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
All right, to the forecast now. Might be a good day to be perhaps by the waterfront, and maybe not quite as humid in that area.
I'm thinking those folks stuck in that traffic right now. We could have the windows down, the sunroof up.
You make the best of it. If I'm calling you, it's because you know I'm stuck in traffic. That's usually when I make my phone calls. But it's a beautiful night. If you're going to get out for a walk or go check out the boats by the water, just bring water with you, because it is deceiving out there. It is very humid still as we head in towards the end of our day today, and it only gets warmer as we head in towards the day tomorrow. So something to keep in mind. It doesn't have to be a brilliantly sunny day for the heat to sneak up on you. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. But if you got a boat, it's a great night to be out on a boat and down by the water. Always a little bit cooler, well, almost always a little bit cooler down by the water. You've got that little bit of a lake breeze to kind of help cool things down, but it is a beautiful and very warm night ahead of us. 21 right now through Windsor, still at 20 here in the downtown core and really out towards Pearson as well. Through Ottawa sitting at 20, 20s across the board, even Northern Ontario in that mid to upper teen range. Heading into this evening, we hold on to a lot of warmth. We should be at 9, we'll sit at about 13, 14. And it's the same really across the board, with the exception of areas a little further north and east. They're a little bit closer to that seasonal norm. Into the day tomorrow, that 22 will feel closer to 25 for us here in the city, and even down by the water, not as much of a reprieve as you would maybe hope for. Areas out towards London, they'll be at 24. Waterloo, throughout Waterloo region at 23, and they'll be feeling closer to the upper 20s, low 30s. So we're getting into that time of year where heat is definitely a factor. The bulk of the shower activity today sitting just south of us, a line of showers that's going to sit with that cold front. It pushes out, and into the day tomorrow, we benefit from the high pressure making its way through Northern Ontario. But another round of showers will sweep through on Friday. Brief, but just something to keep in mind if you have any outdoor plans. Getting in towards our evening, though, a few light clouds will push out. A beautiful, albeit a little bit muggy night ahead of us. You'll need your sunglasses into the day tomorrow. Pretty clear from start to finish. It's as we get into Friday through the early morning commute that we start to see the cloud cover roll in, and then the showers kind of make their way through midday. Not a wash of a day, but just something to keep in mind if you have any outdoor plans, or maybe you're taking off early for the long weekend. Temperature-wise, Friday is the closest to seasonal for our daytime high that we are going to have throughout the next 5 to 7 days. In towards your weekend, we are looking at temperatures into the 20s. Pretty nice. A little cloudy to start things off on Saturday, but it clears out into the afternoon and through your Sunday, your Monday. We're holding on to a decent amount of sunshine. The humidity is the reason why we have the chance of showers on Sunday, but realistically, it's just a little bit of cloud cover, and the same as we head in towards the beginning of the short work week next week. So lots to look forward to as we head in towards the long weekend. Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. Also tonight, a new case of measles in the GTA, and is not travel related. Who's most at risk of exposure? The latest from public health officials. A man from Mississauga has been identified as the latest case of measles in the GTA.
Health reporter Pauline Chan has more on what officials are doing about it.
Officials in Peel Region identified the measles case in an adult man over the weekend, and they're warning the public about possible exposure on May 10th at the Silver Creek Convenience Store at 680 Silver Creek Boulevard, Unit 4, from 7 a.m. to noon, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Healthcare Medical Clinic, Unit 8 at the same address, and from 9:17 a.m. May 10th to about 6:15 p.m. the following day, May 11th, at the emergency room of Trillium Health Partners Mississauga site at 100 Queensway West.
We are concerned about individuals who may be or under immunized for the measles vaccine because they would be at a higher risk of either getting infected with the measles virus or, in the event that they're infected, develop severe disease.
Dr. Mary Choi says that while travel is by far the most common method of contracting the measles virus, they are still investigating this most recent case as he had not traveled himself out of Canada.
The virus can stay in the air for up to 2 hours after the infected individual has vacated the room. It can generate in the upwards of 100, 200, 300 contacts with a single case of measles. We did offer a post-exposure prophylaxis vaccine clinic. So what that means is that individuals who are not up to date with their measles-containing vaccine have about a 72-hour window based on the evidence that we have to receive the MMR vaccine to get that post-exposure protection.
Choi says pandemic disruptions to vaccination programs are largely to blame.
We're only in May of 2024. Ontario has seen 21 cases of laboratory test confirmed measles. In comparison, in 2023, for all of the year, we've only seen 7 cases.
While people born before 1970 are considered to have already been exposed to measles, Ontario health officials say 2 shots are now required for full protection.
I believe it's about 85% protection with the 1 dose, and we go up to 97%, so almost 100% with 2 doses of vaccine in you.
Measles symptoms typically include runny nose, high fever, cough, red watery eyes, and a red rash lasting about 4 to 7 days.
We do recommend that you monitor for these symptoms, and if you are concerned that you are developing symptoms, please contact your healthcare provider.
Pauline Chan, CTV News.
It's an award-winning musical currently on stage at the CAA Ed Mirvish Theatre.
And as CTV's Andrea Case reports, one of the stars of Hadestown didn't originally dream of being on stage.
Emily Freddie Fredrickson has been playing the trombone since she was 9, not because it was the first instrument she wanted, but because of economics.
I'm glad that it was a cheap instrument, because I have a really, this is an instrument I've been playing since I was 14, part of it, this part is newer, but they're both vintage horns from 1957 and 1963. And that's like the golden age, when they were like really making the best trombones.
It wasn't her first love.
I told my first grade teacher that I wanted to be a paleontologist, and she said, I don't know how to spell that. So we're gonna put writer.
Instead, she fell for music and the trombone in particular.
And they took me out of school to this Seniors at Leisure concert where it was the touring version of the Tommy Dorsey band. And he, led by, the frontman was a trombonist, so I just became immediately enamored. I was like, this is what I want to do. I was 11 years old.
She and it have a key role in the musical Hadestown. Now, after 2 years, her 700th performance is this week, and the touring company has returned to Toronto. It takes its final bow at the Ed Mirvish Theatre on May 26th.
I've had a lot of people come up to me and tell me that, especially young students, and I really didn't see anyone who wasn't a man playing the trombone until, I don't even know. I was probably in late high school. So to have somebody, come up to me and say that it means a lot to see that, and then maybe they themselves could do that, that means the world to me.
It's not an instrument you often see in a musical.
Having the trombone exposed in such a cool way in this particular production, it really gives us a lot more credit than like you would expect, because it's a cool thing to do.
Leaving the production will be bittersweet.
There have been moments where I was like, yeah, I think I'm done. And now I'm coming to the end, which I never thought I would still be here at this point, but now I'm coming to the end and I'm like, no, I don't want this to be over. I can do this for a little bit longer.
The end of one she hopes will be the beginning of another. Up next, she's moving to New York City with the goal of being a trombonist in the Big Apple. Andrea Case, CTV News.
It was an unusual sight outside City Hall today, but all for a good cause. Toronto's mayor was among those taking part in a truck pull challenge to benefit Second Harvest. The event saw teams of 10 competing to pull a truck across Nathan Phillips Square in the fastest time.
The Second Harvest have done phenomenal kind of work, and I'm so privileged to be able to support Second Harvest and to find ways to donate to and support their efforts.
Like all the food at Second Harvest, none of it's purchased. This is all surplus excess food. All of this food would have gone into a landfill where it's creating methane gas and is a direct contributor to the climate change and the climate crisis. So it's just a common sense, like keep food on plates where it belongs and out of landfills, and let's support our communities.
Today's event aimed to raise enough to cover 400,000 meals for people facing food insecurity in Toronto.
After the break, PWHL Toronto has a chance to clinch tonight and move on to the finals, but they will have to do it without their leading scorer. A preview coming up.
You can't run forever.
That's the new thriller starring J.K. Simmons, and we'll speak to him about playing a crazed killer on the next CP24 breakfast.
Spooky, where Toronto gets its everything every morning.
Too many lives have been turned upside down by the reckless and selfish actions of someone else.
Updating our top stories, the province is promising new penalties for those convicted of impaired driving, from installing an ignition lock to lifetime license suspensions. The moves are meant to keep those who've driven while impaired from becoming a repeat offender.
A self-described crypto king has been charged with fraud and money laundering. Aiden Pleterski was arrested earlier this week and has been released on bail. More than 100 people have filed legal claims after tens of millions of dollars disappeared. More details on the charges are expected to be provided tomorrow morning when police in Durham hold a news conference.
The most obvious thing we kind of see is that there's not enough excuses for people to be right beside the water, get out on the water, sit on a patio right near the water.
Now, what should be done with Toronto's waterfront? The Waterfront BIA has some ideas. A new report suggests Toronto could learn from other cities and find a way to take advantage of the number of people who visit the area.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
Stock markets in the U.S. hit new highs today after the release of new inflation numbers. Amber Kanwar from BNN Bloomberg has the details.
A measure of underlying U.S. inflation cooled for the first time in 6 months in April, a small step in the right direction for the central bank officials looking to start cutting interest rates this year. So-called core inflation came in at 3.6%. That's the lowest level since 2021. That prompted optimism in the stock markets that the Federal Reserve could start cutting rates as soon as this summer. All the major indices in the U.S., from the NASDAQ to the S&P 500, hit fresh record highs. And while it was a good day for stocks in the U.S., the same can't be said for those meme stocks that have been in the news this week, as the rally in shares like AMC and GameStop ran out of steam today. After more than doubling on Monday and Tuesday's trading session, shares in both those companies lost ground today. One analyst told BNN Bloomberg today that he thinks that GameStop in particular will have a hard time staying in business over the long term. And the wildfire situation in BC and Alberta is deteriorating rapidly today, with hundreds of fires burning, more than a dozen deemed to be out of control. Investors are focused on a major fire that is within 10 kilometers of the oil sands capital, Fort McMurray in Alberta. Numerous oil sands operations and at least 2 major pipelines are in the area. Now let's take a look at the closing market numbers. The Canadian dollar was flat around 73 cents U.S. Oil prices advanced modestly in the U.S., up to around $78 per barrel, while in Canada they slipped by nearly $1 per barrel. And it was an up day on the TSX, adding 41 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Amber Kanwar in the BNN Bloomberg Newsroom.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
The province is looking to make changes to how it compensates injured migrant workers. The Workplace Safety and Insurance Board normally pays workers 85% of their salary if they get hurt on the job and can't return to their previous role. However, it claws back money earned from other work. The WSIB's president says that isn't fair to migrant workers who return home after injury and usually earn much less in their countries. He says the board is reviewing 50 claims and will likely pay out millions in retroactive compensation.
The Blue Jays were looking for their second straight win over the Baltimore Orioles this afternoon, and Toronto was leading in the ninth until this happened.
High fly ball to right. Springer is back. And it's off the top of the wall. It is called a home run.
Baltimore's Adley Rutschman hit a walk-off home run, giving the Orioles a 3-2 win. The Jays host Tampa on Friday.
Toronto FC will be without its coach and 4 players for tonight's match in Nashville at Nashville SC. John Herdman was suspended for 1 game by the league today. So were Sean Johnson and Richie Laria. It follows a post-match melee with New York City FC on Saturday night. The teams clashed after the final whistle involving about 30 players and staff at one point. TFC players had already, Federico Bernardeschi and Kevin Long had already been suspended as a result of this dust-up.
PWHL Toronto will be without one of its star players for the rest of the playoffs. Forward Natalie Spooner has been placed on long-term injured reserve with a knee injury.
Scoring chances, one just missed the net. There, Budarak feeds it down, now a chance. Flaherty, she scores!
Toronto's coming off a loss to Minnesota, but can punch its ticket to the Walter Cup final with a road win tonight. Game 5 would be here on Friday if necessary. The winner of the series plays Boston.
There is a new top dog at Westminster.
The Best in Show winner at the 148th Annual Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show is the miniature poodle.
A miniature poodle named Sage won the top prize last night. She beat 6 other finalists to claim the Best in Show award at the famous canine event. In all, more than 2,500 dogs spanning about 200 breeds and varieties competed. They're judged according to which one best matches the standard or ideal for its breed.
Just ahead, celebrating 100 years of life and adventures. A new centenarian reflects on her secret to longevity.
Tonight, Canada's so-called crypto king arrested.
The only drug I'm addicted to is making mother money.
What's next for the 25-year-old accused of pushing a Ponzi scheme worth millions? We'll have that story and more later on CTV National News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special hello to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Finally tonight, a special celebration for a Toronto senior.
Becoming a centenarian is an accomplishment, but for Maria Romano, the journey to get to 100 is just as impressive.
This is my kid.
Surrounded by family on her 100th birthday, Maria Romano's life has been all about family. She has 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and 9 great-grandchildren.
I'm happy. Very happy. Yes. Yeah.
The love for her family has been Romano's guide. From being one of the oldest of 13 children growing up in Calabria, Italy, raising her siblings, to marriage at 25 and caring for her own family, moving to Australia, then Canada, and settling in Toronto, where she spent many years working in a factory, gardening and cooking.
This life very hard. Very, very hard.
Romano has a great sense of humor. Her husband died at 92 and she still lives on her own. She is healthy despite living with some pain.
At the back.
At the back.
At the back.
Yeah.
Too much. Too much.
Okay. But everything, the heart, the brain.
No, the brain is very, very good.
It appears Romano has good genes. This is her brother on the phone. He's 101. Her sister passed away at 102.
The region they were born has been coined a blue zone, a place where an unusually large number of people are living past 100.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nonna.
But for Romano, it's the people in this room who are the key to her longevity.
And we keep saying family, but that really is, it's as simple as that. It's a powerful force for Mom. And love, exactly. That really does feed into what gives her the energy.
Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Well, happy birthday to Maria.
Happy birthday. She could teach us so much. That's amazing. Enjoy your day. Hopefully we have some nice weather for her in the works.
Yeah, working on it tomorrow to be beautiful. So if anybody wants to spend some time outside, it'll be fantastic. But that humidity, you gotta keep an eye on it because it really does start to sneak up on you this time of year. We're looking at humidex values in the mid to upper 20s into the day tomorrow. But for now, it is comfortable outside. The bulk of the active weather keeping its way south and east of us, so we are staying dry, albeit a little cloudy into the early part of our night. We're still sitting at 20 here in the city, 21 in Windsor, 20 in Ottawa, 23 in Parry Sound. We're holding on to a lot of that warmth as we head through the overnight. If you want to head up a patio tomorrow, it will be fantastic, but again, a little muggy into the afternoon, so hydrate accordingly. In towards your Friday, a little shower activity and a slight cool down, but that really is just a seasonal for the high, but it stays warm Friday night. And looking at that weekend, it looks pretty nice into the 20s and a decent amount of sunshine. I will take it. So if you want to get out in the water, go for a walk or celebrate someone's birthday, it'll be fantastic.
Thank you, Jess. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Almond with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a great night.